Dylan Cruz just got promoted to AAA Rochester, and he joins James Wood, the top two prospects in the national system. They are now with each other in AAA. You may be asking, what's the next stop? It's Nats Park.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can check us out over on Twitter at BrianClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And while you're at it, make sure to search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including over on YouTube. Hit that subscriber button for me as well. Later on in today's show, we will be discussing the defending National League champions, Arizona Diamondbacks, come to town tonight. You got Jake Irvin on the bump. And then, of course, Nationals, you have Patrick Corbin tomorrow as well. We'll have that series preview for you. You have a 3-game set over Tuesday all the way through Thursday here, and 2 day games as well. We'll have that preview for you a little bit later on in today's show. But second segment, there's been a lot of talk about the Nationals trade deadline, and there's one elephant in the room right now. The Nationals, they are loaded with starting pitching. Yes, they are. That is a thing that has not been happening here since 2019. There are some decisions to be had. And so the Nationals, we're going to kind of work this out here. I think the Nats might be in for a little bit of a struggle bus here, but in fact, it's the best problem that you can have. But how will they all fit in the puzzle come post-trade deadline? I'll have that discussion for you a little bit later on. I think it might be able to work. But we start off with discussing the latest movement in the minor leagues as James Wood and Dylan Cruz are together in AAA Rochester after Dylan Cruz yesterday was announced that he got the promotion from AA to AAA Rochester, and he now joins James Wood, who's expected back any second now from injury. So before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And of course, terms do apply. So getting into it now, Dylan Cruz, the big news yesterday, he now joins James Wood in AAA. And Dylan Cruz, I don't know if people were really familiar with this, but James Wood early on in April was actually struggling mightily. And I wasn't really too concerned about it. But ever since the calendar turned to May, he killed the baseball. Simple as that. Batting .292 since the beginning of May, at a .359 OBP, a .475 slug, .834 OPS, had 3 home runs, 27 RBIs, 10 doubles, 3 triples, 13 walks, 30 strikeouts, and as well as 13 stolen bases, by the way. So now he joins James Wood, the other top prospect, and probably the better prospect overall at this point. And now you have your 2 best prospects one stop away from being with the Washington Nationals. Now, at this point in time, James Wood is expected and most definitely will be in the majors before Dylan Cruz at this point. I'm not going to lie. Once Dylan Cruz joined the Nationals last year, I truly thought that Dylan Cruz would kind of make the climb a little bit quicker to AAA and then as well just making the jump to the majors even sooner than James Wood. But with the way that James Wood has been swinging the bat down in AAA, he's going to be the one to get the call, assuming he continues to light the world on fire after he comes back from his injury, which could be today after all. Andrew Golden of the Washington Post did expect him to come back any second. He reported that in yesterday. And then, of course, the move from AAA with Dylan Cruz climbing up the ranks for the Nationals. And again, this is the time to be a Nationals fan. You are talking about your 2 blue chip prospects, 2 of the top 10 prospects in all of baseball, knocking on the door of the bigs and getting here relatively soon, by the way. And it's not even just that. The Nationals also have another promotion of someone we'll discuss a little bit later on in the segment that includes Daylen Lile. But talking about the 2 big guns here, James Wood and Dylan Cruz, these are 2 guys that are going to have to be kind of married together, in my opinion. You want to see these guys batting number 2 and batting number 3 in your lineup. And whichever way you decide to go with that, Dylan Cruz and James Wood, I think they're going to make some beautiful music. I expect Dylan Cruz, in fact, to have a lot better numbers with AAA than what he did down in AA. Having the protection of James Wood, that big power bat that everybody has circled on their calendar when you play against Rochester now, Dylan Crews now has that protection. And then you're going to have to forget, or not really forget, because I can tell you this right now, people don't forget about Dylan Crews, one of the better college hitters that we have seen in quite some time. But Dylan Crews is now going to have that protection with him. That is kind of the glimpse into the future for Nationals fans as well. Because again, these are two guys who are going to be with this organization, hopefully for the next decade plus. That's the dream. You want to have that window open for them. And now you see them both together for the first time at AAA. Now, you did see it again last year with a little bit in AA Harrisburg, but ultimately Dylan Crews really struggled in his time last year in AA Harrisburg. I expect things to really turn for the right things at this point in time when it comes to Crews. I think Dylan Crews' numbers at this point, they've been good, but still I do expect a little bit better. Because again, if you were to look at his overall numbers, the slow start in April really kind of hindered him and really hindered his stats in total. Because again, you don't even have to worry about the final line. He had an OPS under 800, but still, you all saw that over the last month and a half, he's really starting to turn it around. Again, having an 834 OPS, that's pretty damn good. That's what I expect Dylan Crews to be doing up in the major leagues as well. Having extra base hits, having a little bit of power as well, stealing 13 bases, not striking out as much as he did. That would be kind of the dream scenario because he did strike out a little bit too much, in my opinion, down in AA this year. But ultimately, about one strikeout per game, I can take that from Dylan Crews. But now you have these two things together. And if you're a Nationals fan right now, you have to feel really damn good about having both these guys in AAA by mid-June. And now the next stop for both of them is Nationals Park, barring any injury. And again, I think Dylan Crews at this point in time, it's not crazy at all to think he's going to be up in the majors at some point this season, especially if he just lights the world on fire down in AAA. Hell, let's just say this. Let's say he's got 1,100 OPS come mid-August. I would not be surprised to see him come up in mid-August at this point. I really wouldn't. Because again, we've seen Mike Rizzo in the past be aggressive. And with this Nationals team, you're in the playoff race right now. Right now, the Nationals, they hold a wild card spot if the season ended today. They could be kind of hurrying some guys up. Once the trade deadline comes along, maybe they move on from Lane Thomas, Jesse Winker as well. That opens up two outfield spots for you-know-who, James Wood and Dylan Crews. But that wasn't just the only move in yesterday's game and yesterday's news as far as the Nationals go. Daylen Lile, another top 10 prospect in the national system, in my opinion, probably one of the sleeper prospects that the Nats have. He's not really a top 100 prospect in baseball at this point, but he has put up some really good numbers in a very tough hitting ballpark at Wilmington. So over the course of this season, Daylen Lile has batted .271, a .353 OBP, a .410 slug, which in my opinion is a very important number to look at, and a .762 OPS. Now, I talk about the slugging because one thing has always been kind of notorious with Wilmington. It is not a hitter-friendly ballpark whatsoever. Daylen Lile did hit for a pretty solid power this year when it came to Wilmington, not just on the road, but also at home. Having 3 home runs, 24 RBIs, he had 8 doubles, 6 triples as well in 57 ball games down at Wilmington. Daylen Lile is one of those prospects who might get lost in the shuffle a little bit because, again, you have all these flashy toys when it comes to Dylan Crews, James Wood, even Robert Hassel still in the picture, Elijah Green down in Fredericksburg, who's filled with tools. But Daylen Lile has been one of the more consistent producers since the beginning of last season. He hits the baseball real damn well. And again, I don't know what to expect with him from AA because he is 21 years old. He's still very young. But I think the Nationals, they may have found something with Daylen Lile. What he did this year in Wilmington is a pretty hard feat, in my opinion. And getting him up to AA Harrisburg is a very smart move by this organization, in my opinion. Because again, let me reiterate this. Wilmington has always been a notorious, very pitcher-friendly ballpark. It is not an easy park to hit in, especially if you're a power bat. Daylen Lile isn't really a power bat, but he does have that in his repertoire. He does have that in his back pocket. He can hit home runs. He hits extra bases, as we've seen. Again, 8 doubles and 6 triples this year with a pair of home runs, 3 home runs in total. Daylen Lile is one of those guys who, again, gets lost in the shuffle, but he really probably shouldn't. So now seeing him up in AA as well, joining Yohandy Morales whenever he gets off the IL. He's joining Brady House as well, who will probably be the next one to get promoted to AAA Rochester. But now you have all these different prospects moving. This is the time of the summer. If you're a Nationals fan, you got to be kind of feeling yourself a little bit. You got to be pumping up your chest and getting excited for what's to come. Because again, you sit one game below 500. Right now, you hold a wild card spot. And the Nationals and this organization as a whole, it is looking damn good. 2 years ago, if you would have told me that we'd be having all these guys knock on the door of the major leagues, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I probably wouldn't have believed you all the success that the Nationals would have been having at this moment in time. But take it in, and you know what? This National success, talking about the big league club, a lot of this has to do with the National starting pitching. Well, National starting pitching, they have a great problem right now. You've got a logjam. What will be happening with the National starting pitchers when you have Trevor Williams healthy, when you have Josiah Gray healthy, and then ultimately when you have other guys like Cade Cavalli coming back from Tommy John surgery? He will be up in the majors at some point as well this season. So what's going to give? Who will be back in the bullpen? Who will get demoted? And who might get traded? We'll have that discussion for you. But now let me tell you guys about some of our very good friends over at FanDuel. And guys, we talk about FanDuel. I want you to know that, of course, FanDuel is the price for you. I want you guys to know we love our friends over at FanDuel, but I was wrong. I'm going to tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. And guys, Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets, and maybe you're on Half Street just like I am. Right after work, I take a step out there, and I want to go to the Nats game. So guess what? I open up Game Time. I'm walking up there. I'm a 2-minute walk away. I open up Game Time. I get their flash zone deals. And of course, buy my ticket 2 clicks away. I have my ticket in hand, walking in the ballpark right there. Get to see the national anthem, first pitch as well. Grab a drink, grab a hot dog, whatever you want. Game Time is a fast and easy way to go to Major League Baseball games. And again, you have all the last minute tickets with flash deals, zone deals. That's what I always do. So, and also one of my favorite features, you get your view from your seat from the app so you can see if there's any obstruction, see what the view is from your seat. There is no better deal than Game Time. And always lowest price is guaranteed, and event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and all the good stuff there as well. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Also, let me tell you guys about our friends over at Supply House. And guys, get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is a reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trade can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free trade master program. Every trade master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. And now we get back into it with the Nationals. They've got a good problem to have. But later on in today's show, the National League defending champs, Arizona Diamondbacks, who have been a little bit cold, but they have been kind of picking it up a little bit. We'll have that preview for you in the third segment of today's show, which will be coming up next. But now we talk about this Nationals team and the starting rotation that has carried us to this moment and why the Nationals have been so successful in 2024. It is because of this rotation, but they've got a really good problem to have because you've got a little bit of a logjam right now. So where this rotation stands, this is kind of a big picture, overwhelming question, in my opinion. This is the one thing that I think the Nationals could kind of botch so far in 2024, kind of looking into that magic 8-ball. If you were to ask me what could go wrong, it could be with what the Nationals decide to do in their starting rotation. So right now, you have Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, DJ Hurst, and Patrick Corbin. Now that is with Trevor Williams on the shelf, and that is with Josiah Gray also on the shelf. Now, Josiah Gray should be back probably within the next week or two, maybe at this point. Maybe the Nationals decide to stretch him out. It could be even sooner at this point. We don't really know at this point. It's kind of been a long time, for being honest. But let's start out with the obvious. Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, and Mitchell Parker. Those three are untouchable at this point. I used to think Mitchell Parker back a few weeks ago may be kind of the odd guy out, but at this point, you can't take him out of the rotation. If you were to, the fans should riot. Simple as that. So at this point, I just don't think you'd touch Mitchell Parker at this point. He's going to be in the starting rotation for at least the next 2 months. If he falls off completely and production just slips, then maybe we'll talk about it then. But at this point, he's one of your starters. He's one of your top 3 guys. In my opinion, you should not touch him. DJ Hurst, coming off a 13 strikeout game. He's one of those guys who, in my opinion, kind of fits this role where he might be optioned. He might get thrown back in the bullpen, but there's still a lot to decide at this point. And then you have Patrick Corbin. Do I have to say anything? He's just in there right now because of the way that the injuries have fallen for the Nationals. But what should the Nationals do to kind of clear up some space? Because again, you have a top prospect with Cade Cavalli, who's going to be coming back from Tommy John surgery, who should be up in the majors. Really, he probably could be up in the next month or two. That's when I would expect him to be. But more realistically, it's probably going to be post-trade deadline. And the reason why I say that is because right now, Trevor Williams, who is also on the IL, hopefully gets back to form by early July, mid-July even, right before the deadline, comes in, gets a few nice starts, and then at this point, the first move the Nationals should make is to trade Trevor Williams. I don't care if you're making a wild card run at this point. I don't care. Trevor Williams is going to have free agency here. He's not going to be part of the future. He is not part of the future for the Nationals. If you like Trevor Williams as much as you do, which, by the way, he's been great this year. Shout out to Sean Doolittle for fixing him. He's been giving him credit every damn interview he does, so you can tell Sean Doolittle means a lot to this organization. But you have to move on from Trevor Williams. Because, again, the future is a priority still, even with the Nationals competing for a wild card spot. You have to trade Trevor Williams at this point in order to get DJ Hurst in the rotation if he continues to pitch the way that he has been over his last few starts here. Even if you have Josiah Gray, who may not be up to 100%, you got to get him in the rotation. And then ultimately, you got to get Cade Cavalli in the rotation as well. Someone who is Major League ready and who should be on the Major League roster and who should be pitching every 5 to 6 days at this point. Trevor Williams is the obvious move here where you got to somehow get him, unfortunately, out of town. Like, simple as that. Even if the Nationals are above 500, you have to make way for these young guys. And again, what will the starting rotation look like post-trade deadline? Well, this is what it should look like. Now, will it look like this? That's probably a different question we'll have answered a little bit later on here. But it's going to look like this post-trade deadline. Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, ink them in pen. You don't touch them. Josiah Gray is your number 4. Cade Cavalli is your number 5. And DJ Hurst as your number 6. Yes, I think the Nationals go to a 6-man rotation for a couple of different reasons. Number 1, you have guys like DJ Hurst, Cade Cavalli, and Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker as well. All in those kind of situations where they're still young arms. They're not necessarily used to going out there every 5 days, giving us 6 to 7 innings pitch the way that they have been. You want to stretch out these guys. And also, by the way, You want to have all these guys pitching in the rotation. Guys like Jackson Rutledge, who are down in AAA, who is doing really poorly, unfortunately, so far this season. You kind of have to take him out of the equation at this point. He's an odd man out. He's not going to be in the starting rotation in 2024, barring some injuries here. But you have to have, number one, flexibility with these starters. You just have to find a way to get them all in there in order to mature and grow and figure out what the future pieces will be in. Because I don't think the Nationals, and I don't think anybody out there is predicting this, by the way, but the Nationals aren't going to start next year with the six-man rotation. And by the way, I still think they probably could add another top-of-the-line starting pitcher this offseason, whether that's a Corbin Burns. Let's get a little crazy and add another veteran who could win a Cy Young in 2024. All these different things, the Nationals, they've got a great problem to have right now. This is not a bad thing. It may be a little bit stressful, and it may put a little bit of stress on the organization and how to handle things, but you've got a lot of guys at this point. You can make different moves and make Patrick Corbin and put him back in the bullpen and have him just eat innings and blow out games. That's kind of the role that Patrick Corbin should be in. And I still have a very hard time in believing that the Nationals will do that at this point because, again, he's getting paid $35 million. Are they really going to look at this and not really Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez? Because, again, if you were to ask them, they're baseball junkies. They know he's terrible. I hate to put it that way, but they know it. You know it. I know it. Come on. This is not Little League anymore. We all know he's not a good major league pitcher at this point in time. But I think it's a bigger issue than that. Are they really going to allocate $35 million to the back of the bullpen to eat innings? I don't think it's a Rizzo call. I don't think it's a Davey call. I think it's probably an ownership call. They probably don't really want $35 million in the bullpen. They might see him as some value to kind of space out some of these starters, and he might be that sixth guy. And then they option DJ Hers down post-trade deadline. But still, that's a little far-fetched for me at this moment in time. But if the Nationals were doing the right thing, Patrick Corbin would be in the bullpen probably yesterday. That's just what it is. But at this point in time, you got to trade Trevor Williams. He is unfortunately the odd man out. And really, I don't know what you could get for him at the deadline, but teams will be calling for him. He has been a reliable veteran for this team. He has, in the past with the New York Mets, he has played a valuable role coming out of the bullpen. He's played a valuable role making spot starts. And again, this year, he has been the Nationals' one of, if not the best starting pitchers when he was healthy. So I could see Trevor Williams being gone at the deadline, even if the Nationals are competing. I don't see them buying because, again, you don't want to sell your prospects at this point. You've been bad for all these years to have guys like DJ Hers come through. You have guys like Cade Cavalli. You have guys like Mitchell Parker, Jake Irvin. All these different guys develop. You're not going to be selling your young pieces who could be coming up in the next year or two. It just doesn't make sense, even with the Nationals competing at this point. I would actually be upset if the Nationals went out and bought this deadline and sold some of their prospects. You can go out there and maybe dangle Elijah Green for one of the top guys. I don't really know. I would not really even do that, if we're being honest. He's still a young product and has a lot of tools. I would like to see the Nationals try to see it through with him at this point in time. But the Nats, you got to make a decision on Trevor Williams. He seems like the guy who will be the odd man out in 2024. And then your rotation will look like Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker, Josiah Gray, Cade Cavalli, and DJ Hers. You have that six-man rotation from August all the way through September, and who knows what happens if you make the postseason. That's going to be a great problem to have. Again, if you have all these guys in that rotation, Patrick Corbin in the back of the bullpen coming in, you never know what can happen, but that'd be a pretty damn exciting rotation to think about for the second half of the Nats season. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now, let's talk about this series as the Nationals have the Diamondbacks coming to town, and it is going to be a scorching hot few days here for the Nationals. Not literally, or not figuratively, but literally. It's going to be hot. So, let me tell you guys about Prize Picks, of course. First, you may be asking, what is Prize Picks? Well, Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. With more than 5 million members, it is the most fun, exciting way to get on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. And guys, with Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports. This summer, you can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats, projections, and you're locked in. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays, which increase your chance of getting a win, to getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. The finals mean more on Prize Picks, and so do the star players, so you get boosted payouts on select basketball stats that you won't find anywhere else. And of course, there's always action on Prize Picks, and this is the perfect time to try out something new as basketball is winding down. Make sure to try esports this month, because for every Wednesday and Saturday in June, if your lineup doesn't win, you'll get your entry fee back. Choose from Counter-Strike 2, Call of Duty, League of Legends, and much, much more. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is code LOCKEDONMLB. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So let's preview this Diamondbacks-Nationals series. I don't know if people are aware at this point in time, but the D-backs' young star, Corbin Carroll, has been awful so far in 2024. Not awful, but he has not been his, typical MVP self. That he was in the MVP discussion last year. One of the most prized prospects over the last few years, came up, made a huge impact with the Diamondbacks, and now they sit at 35-37 on this season. There's a lot of wild card implications here on the line. And now, good for Nationals fans, tonight, you've got Jake Irvin on the bump. Jake Irvin has been one of the most steady, consistent pitchers across the NL East so far this season. And that's not just me being biased. That's just what it is. He's got a 3 ERA on the season. He is 5-5 on the year. He's got a very low whip. He's not going to be walking guys. We know what to expect with Jake Irvin at this point in time. But on the other hand, in tomorrow's outing, you got Patrick Corbin. There are going to be some issues. But fortunately, Thursday, Nats. Now, I'm not saying the Nats will do this, but you've got Mackenzie Gore. The Nationals have 2 of the 3 favorable pitching matchups over these next 3 games over the Diamondbacks. I could see the Nationals coming up on top and hopefully getting back up to 500, and that's what it would look like if the Nationals were to secure a win. They could be up to 37-37 if they win 2 of 3 of these games with Gore, and you have Jake Irvin tonight, and then you have Patrick Corbin tomorrow, which I guess we'll just see what happens at this point in time. Maybe Patrick Corbin has the game of his life. He does kind of do a little bit better in day games, but I guess we'll just have to see. The ball is going to be flying because it's going to be a hot day there. Arizona, they're obviously used to playing in the heat when they have that roof open at Chase Field, but we'll see what the Nationals can do. This is going to be a huge series for the Nats and really just kind of a measuring stick series as a whole. It is a big one. You would not be expecting to say that in mid-June, but the Nationals, they're on a scorcher. Can they take advantage of the defending National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks? We'll have to see, but there's only one way to find out, and that's by watching the Nats. So have a good one. Enjoy the game. Go Nats.